Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners and Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good up boys from Canada. You know we love you in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But Big C, I'm telling you, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May 17th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, is roadkill taco night here in the South. You know, with all the rain and everything that we've been having animals migrate from one side of the road to the other. Unfortunately, some of them are not as quick as they should have been.
Oh, man.
And so, because you end up with a lot of ground meat on the freeway, you have to make it taco night.
That is funny. I'll make sure that I bring my own meat next time I come to your crib, Big C. Now that I know that you're serving up roadkill, I guess if you put enough sauce on it, everything is all good. I want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You know, so much going on in the world of the sports universe. And we love everything that goes on politically. We love all the great things that are happening around our great world of sports. And, you know, the NBA basketball is amazing. Major League Baseball kind of missing out because it's competing against a sport that is so dominant right now. I don't think a lot of people understand how dominant athletes are when you play without something on your head. They don't have a hat in the NBA. They don't have a helmet in the NBA. You really get to feel like you know the players, but we'll touch on that a little bit later, Big C. I want to start with the White House. I think the White House invited some of the Philadelphia Eagles to a ceremony in June, and I think there were only several players that said they will not attend. Can you just touch on that a little bit more, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's been tradition at the White House to invite national champs, world champs, Charlton, to the White House after their victory. So that's been extended this year to the Philadelphia Eagles in June.
Yeah.
Several players have already announced, Charlton, that they will not attend based on the president's stance and his words versus minority athletes. You know, you got to remember just a few months ago he said fire the SOBs.
Yeah.
And you got to look at the composite of the Philadelphia Eagles roster. There's a lot of those SOBs on the roster. So
yeah.
They weren't feeling too hospitable about his invitation. And, you know, I think at some point that this White House has to find a way to distribute some class.
Yeah.
And say, you know, that they apologize for some of the things that they have said about American citizens.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about third country people. We're talking about American citizens.
Yeah.
We're talking about NFL athletes. These are American citizens, American-born, American taxpayers.
Yeah.
Their parents have been American-born. But yet he denigrates them.
Yeah.
Not only have they denigrated athletes, but they've denigrated the great Senator John McCain from Arizona.
I know it.
A man who was dying of cancer, who has served his country admirably in military and in politics, Charlton, and has been the utmost of class in the United States, not based on race, but based as a person.
Yeah.
He has stood up for all races. But we have a classless White House and staffers who will mock this man in the latter years of his life and health.
Yeah.
And say, well, you know, this is internal. Well, internal happened to be external because the world knows about it, and they even know the person, the culprit.
Yeah.
But I guess you have to expect the rest of the staff in the White House to be classless, just like their leader, who is the biggest bully in America.
Well, I think about that, and I look at Senator John McCain, and as two African Americans, you know, we've always embraced mainstream. Growing up, all the presidents have been Caucasian. I believe there was one gentleman in the original 13 colonies that actually was considered biracial, but President Obama's officially known as the first African-American president. But all throughout the diaspora of black Americans, we've always supported everybody. And I even see how John McCain has such class. And I think people say, well, how does that relate to sports? These guys love sports teams too. And Donald Trump owned the New Jersey Generals and owns several golf courses, which is a sport. But when I look at John McCain, and again, I go back to this because all around the world, when a lady came out and said that Barack Obama was a Muslim, and there's nothing wrong with that, but when you live in a society that preaches racism and separatism, then people that mainstream base that Trump that loves that type of speech, they can say, yeah, we need to get him out of here. But McCain shouted that lady down in public. He didn't wait and do a tweet. He didn't wait until he got on the news and addressed the White House. He stopped the fire right where it was. He said, no, that's not true. He's an American. He's a good man. He's a family man. We just happen to do and see things politically differently, but he's a good man. And he nipped it in the bud right there. He didn't let it grow like a lightning storm starting a fire. And that's the difference in McCain and Trump. And like you mentioned, McCain served our country. So why can't more people stand around the egalitarianism and the fairness that McCain has exhibited, black and white? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's just the composite of our society. When we have a guy that's in the White House now that said take things back the way that they used to be in the 40s and 50s, you still have a lot of Americans who want that, and those are called his base.
Yes.
That feel that white supremacy is what there is. He said that white supremacists and neo-Nazis are good people. The president has stated that. That's not an alleged statement. He stated that on camera.
Yeah.
So when you have a person that's leading our country with that type of stance, all of his followers will spew the same type of venom, Charlton.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, and for anyone that has served this great country of ours, and I know that people say, well, that's politics, let it be. But now this same man wants to invite athletes to come to the White House to honor him. And it's grandstanding, and people can do what they want to do. But especially if you're a woman, and we'll touch on NASA, we know we've been hearing a lot of the rumblings going on yesterday and a few other things that are kind of troubling. But you don't have to be white to stand up and say that someone who's white is doing something wrong. You don't have to be mainstream to say that. You could be a person of color saying it too. And for every person of color, especially African Americans, that are silent when Trump spews his racism and his enmity and his xenophobia, and we say, well, he's just talking about Mexican Americans. He's not talking about us. Well, there was a time that African Americans were the ones who were the target of hate and racial bitterness. There was a time where Jewish Americans were the target of that type of hate and anti-Semitism. You don't have to be Jewish to stand up for someone who's attacking or being attacked by these anti-Semitic statements. So for black Americans, like we are defending John McCain, and there's two forms of criticism. You can criticize and have no recourse, or you can criticize with hope that somebody can do what McCain did when that lady was criticizing President Obama. Say no right now. Don't sit back and wait until you tweet about it. So what can mainstream learn about that, Big C? Don't wait until some politician criticizes that. They can do it on every program that has people who are intelligent, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to understand mainstream is the culprit of that. So it's not about mainstream learning. Mainstream advocates these scenarios, Charlton, because they don't call it to the plate enough when it should be. They straddle the fence, what's good at the time. Mainstream is how we learn everything. We are not sitting here with being devoid of knowledge, but they open the door to explain to us what's going on. If mainstream wanted to change, regardless of which news outlet it was, then they would make it a point, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you also got to understand that the leaders of these news outlets endorse candidates. And when they endorse candidates, Charlton, that's how they ride. Well, they're not going to always tell you who they're endorsing.
Yes.
But they donate monies.
Yeah.
And they also make the people as popular as they are.
Yeah.
You think about it. If all the major news outlets in America decided to go 1 week, then we're not going to mention the president at all. How do you think he would feel? What antics do you think that he would pull out to make the media pay attention to him?
Yeah.
But we have made and endorsed this individual to be what he is through the mainstream media.
Well, that's
they play him up. he is as popular and as unpopular as he is because of them.
Well,
and so any subject that they want to make a point on, they can. And any subject that they want to leave behind,
yes,
they just avoid it in a broadcast.
Well, I appreciate the sports athletes, the intelligent ones, not the ones who are ignorant, because I don't like ignorant people. But I appreciate the intelligent people that will say what it takes to just stand up for what's right. I think we've learned enough about knowing right from wrong, and no matter whether it's POTUS or some bully down the street, I hope that we would do that. I want to touch on something that I know is kind of painful to talk about because, I mean, it's necessary, but it's also painful. And I think about what happened with the Michigan State and Nassar, his conviction, the $500 million, the judgment against him. He's never going to be paid out. I mean, Michigan State's going to pay it, supposedly, allegedly, but we'll see if that happens. But it still goes into what the Philadelphia Eagle players are doing about Trump. When they saw something that was wrong, the Eagles, not all of them, the smart ones, the dumb ones, no. The smart ones, they're saying, wait a minute, if that was something that happened to my family, I wouldn't want to condone and shake that guy's hand. So when Nassar was doing what he was doing to little girls, and I thought how no one would ever say that would happen to someone they love. But what if you're the person that knows it's happening to somebody else's child? And when someone's bullying another person's child, the way the president bullies other Hispanics. And I just want to ask Big C, what will it take for people to stand up, not when it happens to someone who they love, but just because it's the right thing to do? And I'm proud of the Eagles as a sports team. At least the smart guys, the dumb guys, no. They'll just go right along like chickens going off the slaughter. But the smart guys say, no, we're not going to endorse that garbage. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you answered the question by asking the question. What will it take for somebody to stand? It has to affect somebody that you know. Well, when you're in mainstream society, if it doesn't affect you, then you say, oh, whoa, I feel sorry for those people. Not until it affects you directly. Nassar, I mean, he's in the news today, okay?
Yeah.
The settlement's in the news yesterday. Okay? Jim Sandusky. What happened to Jim Sandusky? What happened to the settlement with Jim Sandusky? Have we not witnessed this before? This is deja vu, Charlton. This occurs every day in America. And when it gets to the masses like it is, then all of a sudden it becomes news. But this happens every day in America, Charlton, that people and children are molested and assaulted. It's everyday news, but it's not sexy news until you get dozens or even hundreds involved.
Yeah.
To be one or two people, media doesn't care about that because the story is not big enough, okay?
Yeah.
It's not. But when you get a situation when dozens or hundreds are being accused of being abused, let's cover this story, Charlton. These incidents occur every day in America. So until it affects someone personally, they pay no attention to it. I mean, we look at the Me Too movement, Charlton. How long has that been going on? As long as it was isolated incidents, no one said anything. Well, who knows? She might have not gotten what she wanted, so she's making these accusations. She didn't get the promotion, so she's making these accusations. All of a sudden, a dozen women come out with the same accusation. Maybe we should fire the guy.
Yeah.
Okay? So as long as it's one person, Charlton, two people, Charlton, mainstream doesn't care.
Yeah.
When it gets to be a dozen to 100, let's have some action. So don't think about when will it affect people, Charlton. It affects people all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Until the numbers are large enough, no one pays attention. It's like looking at the lottery, Charlton. When you pass up and down the freeway, you see the Powerball, you see the mega. People see $40, $50 million. That's not big enough for me to play. I don't know what it takes for them to survive.
Yeah.
I don't play. They say, I don't play until it gets to 200 million. Then I'll play.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same way when you talk about sexual assault and abuse in America.
Yeah.
As long as the number is low, people don't care. But when it becomes a copious number, people say, whoa, maybe we should pay attention now.
Well, I think because again, I mentioned that I work around AAU, and sometimes as adults, we need to go back and hang out with kids and be a mentor. And around AAU basketball in California, you get a chance to mentor a lot of young people. They watch how you behave. They watch how you speak. I mean, our coaches say no profanity. If you have profanity, you sit on the bench. And in a world where sometimes a rapper can make more money if he has more profanity, in the AAU, they're saying, well, wait a minute. In this business, you're going to sit at the bench.
But Charlton, when you think about that, so many youth sports are exploitation. You think about Jim Sandusky at Penn State.
Yeah.
These were youth camps that were being run by Penn State, okay?
Yeah.
These were teenage boys that were there. And so these were the ones that were being abused.
Yeah.
And so when you say that youth sports are the galvanizing point, that is the most victimized point, because then you have the vulnerable who can be intimidated. That's what you look at, and that's what happens with all these situations. Larry Nassar was dealing with teenage girls that can easily be intimidated. So when you're looking at youth sports, those are the most vulnerable individuals out there in America that can be manipulated by adults, because if you want to advance in anything, you talk about AAU basketball, it's just as manipulative as anything else. You think about a young boy that's on the fence that doesn't have that great promise, and a coach said, well, you know, I can help you out. You know, you're going to need some little extra one-on-one time. That's the same thing Nassar said. That's the same thing Sandusky said.
Yeah.
So when you look at these youth sports, these are the vulnerable victims. We're not hearing about adults being molested like we are about kids being molested, Charlton. So youth sports has been a vessel for these predators, Charlton, over the decades.
Well, I think that can be true as a double-edged sword. So as the Catholic Church. I mean, the Pope knows they hide people, the priests that molest children.
And that's my point.
They don't punish them. They send them off
Everybody's
to the
going
country.
after the youth.
Yeah.
The adults have been telling.
Yeah.
But how many youth? I mean, there have been youth come once they've gotten to their 20s and made these claims, Charlton. But when they were kids, they were vulnerable victims that could be intimidated.
Yes.
Whether it's the Catholic Church, whether it's a football camp, hockey camp, baseball camp, basketball camp, Charlton, they all have victimized kids.
Yeah.
There might be one or two that goes and has been perfect and had no problems. But this is a mass problem in our society, Charlton.
Yep.
Is that you can victimize and make kids vulnerable, and that's what these adults have been done. These are predators. Predators know where to prey. You talk about the lions in the jungle.
Yeah.
They know where to go and prey on their prey, okay, when they're a predator. That's what these adults, they know where the best opportunity is to be a predator, Charlton.
So,
where they have the most vulnerable victims, that's where they assimilate.
So I want to ask you a question. It's not a flippant question. Should we ban youth sports because there's a few knuckleheads and criminal behavior involved in it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, every sport starts at a youth level. They all do. But you got to look at how this stuff is escalated. It's not the youth sports. It's these camps that have created these problems, Charlton. When you have these mass gatherings, you didn't have these things when it was just at a high school, okay? Now that you have these extracurricular set-up events where they're not monitored, where when you have high school teachers, Charlton, they go through a government background check. You're going to tell me that every AAU coach is going through a government background check?
I doubt it.
All these college coaches don't go through government background checks, Charlton, because they're alleged to be dealing with young adults, not children, okay?
Yeah.
So you got to look at the situation that you're putting the kids in. You don't ban high school sports, but when you look at these youth sports around America, Charlton, these people have to go through stern background checks. Not once, but yearly. Sometime every 6 months. It would not be an overreach to have it done every 6 months.
Well,
because you don't know who you're releasing your children to. Just because that guy smiles to you, you don't know what he has in his basement. You don't know what he has on his laptop. You don't know what's in his iPhone in his hand.
Yes.
So when you sit there and say, should you ban youth sports, Charlton, Youth sports should protect the vulnerable. They need to care more about the kids that are involved than they should care about the adults that are participating. And they say because these adults are doing it on a voluntary basis, well, they don't have to go through the background check. Those are the ones who need to go through the background check, Charlton, because you don't know what predator you're letting in. It's like if you leave your door open in the summertime during the day and you close it at night, you're going to have a house full of flies and mosquitoes and whatever other bug that comes in.
Yeah.
They're all unwanted. That's what you have in the majority of the time in youth sports, Charlton.
I want to ask this question because, and I want to go into something that's real. It's real talk, but we always talk about how to protect women in our society. That means women and children. Of course, children. Now, a lot of sexual predators happen in their own families. So how do you protect someone from that family member that's touching them? And how do you tell a young girl, you got to call 911 or tell your parents? Sometimes telling the parents are not believed. And I know a lot of people won't touch on this because they want to wait until it's a university. But there's a lot of young people that deal with these issues. I want to bring this up because it's a contrast that is so powerful, I think, and a lot of men don't deal with it, even though it happens to boys too. Look at the Penn State situation. When I look at someone like a Gloria Allred with the indictment of Bill Cosby saying in her 42 years of practicing law, that was the proudest moment of her life. Yet we still hear that every 20 seconds women are sexually assaulted in this country. I know you want to watch the game. I know you want to know who won the game. I know you want to know how many points did somebody score. But for that young girl that it's happening to since we started Big C Sports, a few minutes ago, in order for them to stay safe, when they watch the news and they see a guy like Matt Lauer that brought the news to them every day, covered the Olympics for NBC Sports, the ones with the gold circles, and all around the globe, NBC Sports, and their people read, those young girls read, boys too. And they have to ask themselves this question. I know that Gloria Alvarez is happy and everything's, fine and dandy now because they got Cosby based on whatever evidence they had. We know what the jury looked like. What do they say to these young kids when Matt Lauer is roaming around doing whatever he's doing? Also, the gentleman Weinstein, when he's roaming around doing whatever he's doing, Bill O'Reilly got $30+ million to walk away from Fox News for the same garbage. Donald Trump, all the allegations, those women seem to disappear. And Daniels is the only one that has, I guess, enough money and moxie to fight. So what do we say to the young people? We celebrate Nassar being convicted, yes. But like you just mentioned, what about the young girls? What do you say to them when all these older Caucasian mainstream guys, nothing happens to them? They just kind of disappear at Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, who was the judge and jury? That's what you got to look at. I think about the Gloria Allred statement that she made. She said that's the most proudest moment of her life was convicting Bill Cosby because she's looking at the civil part, not the criminal part. She's looking at a civil suit and possible monies that she can make out of this scenario because she did this case pro bono. No one paid her to represent them. She's looking at a civil suit that's coming on the back end. But when we look at these kids, Charlton, that are constantly being victimized throughout American society, where's the finance part? That's what America's run on, finance. We talk about sports. We always talk about the money in sports being $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
And one of the victims of Nassar was so profound in her addressing the court when she said, what's the value of a little girl?
I remember that.
When she asked the judge and the jury. She's a lawyer now. But that's what you look at in all these cases. You talked about Lauer going away, his case quiet. You talked about Weinstein. He's in counseling. He's never been charged criminally. Even though all the evidence they have, he hasn't been charged. Lauer hasn't been charged. Bill O'Reilly hasn't been charged. And hundreds of other wealthy white men in America, Charlton, have not been charged, nor will they ever be charged. If they seek out therapy, that avoids a criminal action. Because the people that are charging them generally look like them if they were to charge them. And then what would that say about society? All the leaders of society are these predators, Charlton. But you go back to the point that you talked about children, when we have these in-home situations that occur. How does a child protect themselves in that situation?
Yeah.
That is the toughest part of society, Charlton. Because this child has been brought up by this person or known this person their entire life as a protector. And this child has been manipulated to be put into this position by this person, Charlton. And so who does the child tell? And when you look at it, you know, are you destroying a person? You're destroying a family? You're destroying a home, a structure? What? This child doesn't know. This child is totally confused, Charlton.
Yeah.
This child doesn't even have anybody they can go to. The child has been threatened generally. If you tell, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go back to a scene that there was this great movie with several great actors in it, Charlton, called The Green Mile.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Tom Hanks, huge
Michael Clark
actor,
Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan, who has since lost his life.
Yes.
Several other key actors in this movie, Charlton. And he was on death row for murder and rape, even though he didn't commit it. But he was as clairvoyant that he could see things, Charlton. And he passed it on to Tom Hanks. He said, I need to let you know what was in this guy, Wild Bill, who had done this.
Yeah.
And he killed these two little girls with their love. He threatened one, if you say something, I'll kill your sister. If you make a noise, I'll kill your sister. So because these little children loved each other so much, Charlton, and they didn't want to see their sibling hurt, they stayed silent while they were being victimized. This is what life is. This is what a predator will do to somebody. He will threaten that young individual that I will hurt somebody that you love. You will get over what I'm doing to you, but I will victimize them even more than what I'm doing you. Do you want to be the cause of that? Do you want to have to spend the rest of your life with that on your shoulder, that you caused this to happen to that person? Think about the psychological damage that does to that young person, that they love someone so much that they allow themselves to be hurt to protect someone else.
And you know,
that's what society is, Charlton.
And that's why I say it all ties together. And I always said that black Americans have been the vanguard of everything that's happened to be social change in this country, from ending slavery to having the voting rights passed, to ending segregation, to having people who stand up for women and children. I mean, I'm not saying there's one perfect group, but sometimes mainstream is so comfortable. And that's the thing when I watch a sports program. We know that sports is when people sit down. They don't sit down in church. Churches are segregated. Politics are segregated. But I wish we could get some help from our brethren, because with this Nassar thing, this Nassar ruling, everybody's back to, hey, who won the game? Hey, did you see how many points Harden scored last night? What do you think of Durant? Oh, my God, what a home run by Gonzalo Stanton. And that's the thing. But we could use that platform like the Philadelphia Eagles saying, the smart ones, not the dumb ones. The smart ones are saying, I'm not going to tacitly consent to racial hatred. So I want to get back to this thing about the women, because we want to keep women safe, and I know you want to know who won the game. Google it, okay? But this is for smart people, because I know I want to keep women safe in my family too, and boys too. And this is a painful one to bring up. You know, today, the girl that was dating Reuben Foster, the 49ers football player, his whole career is on hold. And this is for women in the Me Too movement too. Okay? Don't sit back and tacitly consent to, well, it was just one person. How do we make sure that young women and old are not manipulating the system when a guy has a multi-million-dollar contract? Maybe over his career he may play 5 years and make $50 million. Well, for someone making $30,000 a year, if you can get a settlement out of that person, and maybe they get you $10 million, that's worth several lifetimes of work and making $25,000, $30,000 a year. And because I've been around the groupie environment, and I know a lot of athletes are advised against this, and this is for the Me Too women to stand up and say, wait a minute, you got to also call out the women who do that garbage, because your son may be next. So when she says that she was just mad and she wanted to end his career, so she allegedly made all these accusations. I don't know. I don't know if it's a cover-up. I don't know. But what do men who get accused of stuff, because it's equal time, if you've ever been accused, society assumes you're guilty, especially if you're black, and they're going to put you in front of an all-white jury. But this woman's also a woman of color. So as a former athlete, Big C, What do athletes have to look for when someone says, you're so good looking, I love you, you're so wonderful, I want to be your girlfriend. Next thing you know, you're being charged with something you did not do. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, relationships is like hockey, not hockey, like soccer. You get red cards, you get yellow cards. And for what? You question it all the time. Who knows what's in somebody's heart? We understand that finances drive the world. A lot of women look at athletes as their 401k plan. This is my retirement plan. Whether I get married to him, whether I have a child, or whether I accuse him of something that we have to settle in or out of court. You don't know what's coming your way as a person. But a lot of that is based on your upbringing. If you decide to stray away from what you were brought up in, Charlton, and get off into a lifestyle that was not you prior to you having money, you bring that upon yourself. But you got to understand, there are people that were with you when you didn't have a dime.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, those people that were with you when you didn't have a dime, you don't know who they are when you got $1 million now.
Yeah.
Is that they're beneath you. And all of a sudden, you moved into a different echelon of people. But those people that you moved in are full. They're plastic, Charlton. They are not the people who were there with sincerity, who would offer you a sandwich when you couldn't get one of your own.
Yeah.
Now you're hanging out with these people who want you to take them out to dinner. And they want to take you for a ride also. So you have to understand as a person, you didn't change, your financial status changed. So when your financial status changed, other people came around you. But when you didn't have anything, they didn't have time for you. And it reminds me of the late rapper Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
He had a song. When he had nothing, women dissed him. Now they're writing letters that they miss me.
Yeah.
These are the same women who didn't want anything to do with him when he wasn't on the top of the charts. But now that he's on the top of the charts, you can have anything you want from me.
Yeah.
Even though he was the same person physically that he had been before, Charles. Only thing that had changed was his financial status, so that made him sexy.
I want to say that sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this $1 billion industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, or a high school team, or even your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. I just want to close by saying this. The Philadelphia Eagles, the smart ones, not the dumb ones, they're challenging Trump because they read about Dr. King. They read about the freedom movement. If they haven't, they have the heart of it. They've heard about Rosa Parks. If you're standing up to people who are bullying people, we can nip it in the bud, whether it's sexual assault against women. But for the women in the Me Too movement, some of you girls know, some of you women know that there are women who are out there on the prey. And for you're an athlete, male or female, you got to know when you're being preyed on. You got to clear the fog. So I just want to speak up for everybody. There's no perfect person. There's no perfect society. But there's no excuse to let someone dominate you or violate you. So you got to stand up for yourself. Sometimes the coaches can't do it. Sometimes the clergy can't do it. Sometimes the coaches and the clergy are the culprits themselves. I know we look at people on TV and we say, hey, well, guys like Matt Lauer, they're going to give us the news. That good old boy did what he did, destroying so many lives, and you don't even hear about him anymore. He's not being prosecuted. Why not? Where's the Me Too movement now? Where's Gloria Allred? I know they want to watch the game. They want to see what the score is. They want to know who's going to advance to the NBA championships. But there are women right now as we speak, and you know who you are. Call 911. Don't let someone violate you. And I just think that's so important. Bixie, I want to touch on a few things in the world of the sports universe. And I know, because it's an emotional thing, when I've known guys who've been accused of stuff, and no one believed them, okay? And I known people that laughed about, I could get you in trouble. And people believe them. And so it's just something all of our society has to know about. Last, I want to talk about the NHL, and it's so important how, Las Vegas, the Knights, and you look about what they're doing with Vancouver, with Winnipeg, and I want to get your thoughts on, is it still something that you think Winnipeg has a chance? I know the people down in Las Vegas are really loving their NHL experience, but I want to get your thoughts. It just can't compete with basketball. It's kind of lost on the shelf a bit. So your thoughts?
It can't compete with basketball, Charlton, but when you look at the NHL that's going on right now, Charlton, there's no mainstream market that it's in, Las Vegas. It's not a major media market. Winnipeg is not even a U.S. media market. You look at Tampa. How big is Tampa's media market? D.C. is the only reasonable-sized media market left in the NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's overshadowed by other things that go on in that region, Charlton. When you look at that region basketball-wise, it's not too far from Boston. So Boston is a media marvel that's going on. And then Cleveland's on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the NHL is being hurt right now, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not having a major media market involved. Even in last year's Stanley Cup, you had Pittsburgh and Nashville. When you have media markets, Charlton, that do not rank in the top 20 in your sport competing for a championship,
yeah,
how much do you expect to be followed? So realistically, you only have 3 media markets left in the NHL.
Yeah.
Based on U.S. geographics. 3 media markets out of 4 left in the NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
And so Vegas, no one thinks about Vegas other than anything other than gambling and UNLV when Jerry Tarkanian was coaching there.
The running Rebels back in the
day.
It's
great to see the Golden Knights, Charlton, get to this point in their inaugural season.
Yeah.
But the NHL is hurt by its own expansion. When you expand to markets that are not in the top 20, top 25 in the U.S.,
yeah,
what do you expect to have when you come to playoff time, Charlton, as far as fanfare and media following?
Yeah.
And you think about the NBA. Look at the media markets in the NBA right now. Houston, what is the 4th largest city in the United States?
It's pretty big, I know.
Houston is the 4th largest. Look at the Greater Bay Area with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay, you got San Francisco, Oakland media market.
Yeah.
That's ranked in the top 10 in the U.S. Houston's
also
ranked in the top 10 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Boston's right there in that New York Mecca, you know. So they're ranked in the top 10, 15 in the U.S. Cleveland is the lowest ranked market in the NBA that's left in the playoffs. But they have the greatest player in the world.
Yeah.
So that automatically gravitates attention to them.
Yep.
So when you start comparing these market sizes, and that's anybody can pull that up. All you got to pull up is Nielsen. You got that little blue button on your phone called Google.
Yep.
Google Nielsen.
Yeah.
Look at it, media markets, and see where these 8 teams that are left playing for championships are ranked in their media markets, and see why the attention is not gravitating to the NHL right now, Charlton. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not a great game. It's not that these series are not exciting, because even if you look at the Eastern Conference Final, Charlton, the home team between Washington and Tampa Bay have won all the road games.
Yeah.
So that's nothing but electrifying.
Yeah.
You know, Vegas is up 2-1 right now on Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So you got 2 closely fought series, Charlton. But the media market does not allow the following in the NHL that it does for the NBA.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's a great game. It's just being overshadowed. It's almost like the third person on a date. You know that person's there, but they're not getting a lot of attention from the people who love sports, Big C. But I wish them nothing but the best. Hopefully we'll see at least Winnipeg bring some hope back to Canada. I do want to touch on something that's happening in the world of the NCAA. I know we talked about it before, just yesterday, with all of the teams that are going to be part of this new bet thing and how people can raise more money. And they're always, think about it, the NCAA is an antitrust violation not to pay athletes, but they're always looking for more money as if they're broke. The ACC, that's down your neck of the woods, they proposed legislation to expand college basketball tournament to 272. That's 72 teams. Is still no pay for the players. Now the betting that you talked about, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. By fiat, they're saying, okay, we're going to let people get paid by fixing games, but we don't want to know about it. Big C, why they need more games in the tournament? Because more bet, Big C. That makes sense to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
4 more games, Charlton. 4 more games, 4 more teams, 2 more games of revenue.
Yeah.
That's all the NCAA is looking at.
They couldn't wait at least 6 months.
They're talking about expanding the number of teams in the tournament. And going up in this, Charlton, they're going to make more money because of more broadcast games.
Yep.
But there's no conversation about compensation towards players. You think about that. We want more money. We can't make enough money is what they're saying.
Yeah, the next
Where's
day.
the money going that the NCAA is making in this tournament of March Madness, Charlton?
$1 billion.
That is the question.
Yep.
You know, but they're saying, but this leads to the gambling that was just passed, Charlton.
Yeah.
If we expand that, you think that people don't control basketball games, Charlton? We've had officials put in prison for basketball hedging, okay?
Yep.
Fixing basketball games. Think about that. This is the guy who can make the mysterious calls at any point. So, we talked yesterday about fraternities and college students,
Yep.
how easy it would be to fix a game. Think about the officials on the college and professional level now, Charlton. We see so many mystery calls in basketball games, and you watch the mystery calls and the non-calls that are made. Pay attention to the point spread in a game at the time when these calls are made and not called, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about fixing games and controlling games, any blind person sitting up, watching the games, and you see these non-calls. Last night there were several calls that should have been called as a charge
Yep.
in the basketball game. We were watching players being knocked over.
Yep.
No whistle blown. But you see somebody who was winked at too hard, and that's a personal foul.
Yeah. Well.
So when we talk about the monies in professional sports, Charlton, and who controls the money, we understood that Vegas has always controlled the money before.
Oh, yeah.
But the human factor controls the game more than Vegas does, Charlton.
Well, I tell you what, there's always media things that you can stand by, and you brought it up the other day with that good old boy for the Cincinnati Reds, Pete Rose. He not necessarily got in trouble for betting on baseball. He just didn't bet with the right bookie. I mean, obviously, but that's. I just think it's so egregious. We started last basketball season, college basketball, UCLA, and I think Georgia Tech went over to China, and that's sponsored by Alibaba. And that's $1 billion you're talking about. And I guess some boys took some things that didn't belong to them, and they were accused of shoplifting in a foreign country. Well, whether it's foreign country or an American country, I just think it's a double-edged sword when the NCAA wanted to strip these boys from their scholarship. Okay? Think about this, people. They wanted to strip them for stealing something that may have cost a few $100s. They stole $1 billion. Okay? And now, with the Supreme Court saying we're going to let everybody bet now on these athletes. And now, just today, it's been the talks recently, but today the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference, they want to expand so they can have more games to bet on. But these young black kids were expelled, okay? And you can Google that. That's just not right. I know the NCAA, last I checked, is about 90% Caucasian men, but the kids who get expelled for doing anything happen to be African American. Yeah, you got to get paid. I just hope they do it legally. Big C, I want to touch on something that happens. You know, we talk about the NBA, and I love the NBA. But before we get into that, I know there's been a hiring for a new coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. They filled their position. I was thinking that it would go to a woman, but you know, women will have to just keep knocking on that ceiling like Hillary Clinton talked about. It's going to crack eventually. You'll get an opportunity. But talk about the hiring for the Milwaukee Bucks, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you bring in a coach that had plenty of NBA experience. He comes from that tree from San Antonio under Popovich.
Yeah.
You know, 4 years ago, he led the Atlanta Hawks to 60 victories.
Yeah.
And the Eastern Conference win in victories.
Yeah,
even though they did not advance far in the playoffs. But now he has a superstar in Anis Tuco.
Yeah.
That he can build a team around. To be a coach, and you look at this player who has a lot of the lineage of a Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Charlton.
Yeah, Giannis. Yeah.
That type of player.
Yeah.
And so you can build a team around him, and plus there's plenty of other young players that, Jason Kidd did a wonderful job putting in the nucleus.
Yeah, with Giannis, yeah.
But now, if this team can get past the second round, that will be a success for this team, and if they can get into that 50-win category. But, just as you talked about, we thought that the young lady that was an assistant coach in San Antonio, which was up for the job, might get the nod there.
Yeah.
I guess the NBA is not ready for a woman yet.
Not yet.
No. Not yet.
No, not yet. I mean, it's
when you think about the Bucks, they're in a tough position right now.
Yeah.
They need to bring in one or two more players, Charlton, to really get them over the hump.
Yeah. And
Budenholzer, if he can get the job done in Milwaukee, it'll be a great hiring.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I want to touch on the NBA right now. I know NBA is fantastic, and people love the game. I know because I've been watching the game for so long, everybody has an opinion. But I look at what happens with point spreads, and the point spread to me is what I watch more than who's going to win the game, because somebody's got to get paid. You can't just keep paying athletes $100 million, $200 million, and not have a way to recoup that money. I mean, you can kill the golden goose if you don't have enough games. But to have the two best teams, arguably, in the NBA, losing by double digits, and the Golden State Warriors' first win was about a 23-point swing, being down about 10 points and winning by 13. That's 23 points. And then last night's blowout win. And Golden State started the game. I mean, a lot of people don't understand this, but when you're the best team supposedly in the league for the last 4 years, and you open the first period with 7 turnovers, your star player's going 1 for 13 on 3, the best shooter in the universe. I mean, I know everybody's all jazzed up about who's going to win, but Vegas won. I mean, Vegas won when they had Houston with a 1.5-point favorite in the first game. And then last night, nobody was putting money on Houston. Everybody thought it was going to Golden State. So a lot of people poured money on Golden State. What happened last night in Vegas, Big C? They were making it rain. Is that what you call it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas, Charlton.
Yeah.
A lot of bets went on Golden State last night in Vegas, and it stayed in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, when you look at this game last night, Charlton, who would have thought that 84 points would have came from the Rockets by players not named Harden and Paul?
Yeah.
Everybody delivered, and it's what we had talked about in the previous show, is that's where the points needed to come from. They needed to find a way to get more than 30, 35 points from the players that weren't the superstars.
Yeah.
And that's what they did last night.
Well,
although there was a lot of missed calls in the game, as we saw up and down the court.
Yes.
Last night, Steph Curry looked a lot like James Harden defensively.
Yeah.
He just seemed to be lost out there amongst the trees, Charlton.
Yep.
Is he tired, or is that leg not up to the strength that they thought it was going to be? A lot will be told over the next couple of days. They're not going to play until the weekend, Charlton. They
Sunday.
got 2 days off going back to Oakland.
Yeah.
And, will they get their home legs up underneath them? We know how well they've played in Oracle, but Houston desperately needed this game last night. To lose 2 at home, Charlton, is one of those things that you never can recover from.
Yeah.
But the split at home still gives Golden State the home court advantage.
Well, I look at 2 things that I notice about last night's game. And, of course, everybody's going to say what they want to say, Big C. That's why we're the land of the free, the home of the brave. You can have your own opinion. When I watch boxing, and I watch a lot of MMA fighting, you really see people giving their all, because it's just 5 rounds of you get knocked out or you get tapped out. They don't really end with a draw, okay? Most of them end by somebody being choked out or being knocked out. And when I saw what happened in Game 1, and people can say, well, Houston just looked like they were out of out of sync. They held the ball too long. They forgot who was on their team. But what I still see, because I'm a cynical person, okay, I still see what you talked about with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said all's fair in love and war. Now everybody can make money. That means the good old boy that drives a truck, he can make money. He can bet on games. That means that everybody who has access to what you have in your hand, a cell phone, you can place a bet with somebody. You don't have to fly into Las Vegas. There are a lot of people that used to go over into Nevada. They had to cross the state line to place legal bets with those sports books. And now you don't have to you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And that's who I think won the game last night, Big C. Somebody's got to get paid. You can't keep paying these guys, a $100 million contract if you got 4 games. But at least you can make it look like you're trying. To me, that's what I see. Is that cynical, Big C, or does that make any sense at all, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, gambling has always been there. It's just been off the ledger. It wasn't all gone through Vegas, and there was been bookies everywhere throughout America. What has happened, Charlton, is that the Supreme Court has recognized that we got to make a lot of these monies taxable now.
Yep.
But in doing that, Charlton, it opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Because, like what I said, the fixing part is now what's going to be out of control in professional sports. When Mark Cuban said, based on this decision, the value of my franchise just doubled.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just doubled the value of my franchise.
Thank you.
Because I can control money as an owner.
Yeah.
Because you think about the Dallas Mavericks last year were accused of tanking late in the season when they saw that they weren't going to make the playoffs.
Yep.
They were accused of tanking to get a better draft pick.
Yeah.
And there were several teams in that position, Charlton. So if I'm having my team tank and I'm making these huge bets in more places than Las Vegas, see, if I can go out and make 30 bets, Charlton,
yeah,
of $5 million in different places around the country, because I don't have to be in one state now.
Yeah.
And I win all of those bets, Charlton.
Yeah.
At even money. I've just made another $70 million, Charlton.
Well,
I made $60 to $70 million. That's what I just made in one day.
Yeah.
So I got 82 games to play on the season.
Yep.
So I'm determining the outcome of half of the season, Charlton.
Yeah.
Of 40 games, where I'm going out pocketing $60 to $70 million in each one of those, Charlton, that I'm determining the outcome of.
Well,
how much of my value just increased?
Well, what's interesting in the world of the sports universe, and a lot of people know, I recall we talk about who's the greatest player in the history of the NBA. Some people say Jordan, some people say LeBron, some people say Kareem. Kareem has the numbers, of course, as the leading scorer, didn't do it shooting threes. But no matter who you vote for, you believe in who you believe in. But I know that when Michael Jordan stepped away from basketball, a lot of people say he wanted to play baseball. There's some good old boys that know there were other reasons to that. So to see him standing next to Silva, and I think the gentleman that owns the LA Clippers, and certain, people can stand next to whoever they want to, as they're announcing all of this. We've had guys being pushed away from the sport for dumb people to think they want to play a different sport. But for the people who know, they say, wait a minute, man. You can't do that. We got to find something to punish you. I just think for anyone that's ever been accused of anything, it's like the floodgates are open now, and we're telling the hard dollar earning public, and we love sports, but if you love something, you don't let it get ripped off. To the hard working public that wants to take his kids to a game, it costs $60 to park at a San Francisco Giants game. I take Bart when I go to the games and I do interviews. $60 for one car. Big C. Are they going to lower ticket prices for the guys who work hard for the money to go see these guys play to make their millions, and now for the owners billions? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're not going to lower anything. They're actually going to raise the prices. That's what happens. You talk about the gambling now, and you brought up Pete Rose. That would be the same to say that California was going to reduce all the sentences for the people who dealt marijuana who are now in prison after they legalized marijuana.
Yeah.
in the state of Seattle, in the state of Colorado, state of California. Those people didn't get a reduced sentence.
Yeah, in Washington.
Just like in sports. They're not going to change what they do as far as increasing the prices, Charlton. They may increase them even quicker now as they say, well, people have a chance to make more money because they're going to come into our arena to have an interactive experience where they're sitting there live, they can see the floor of a game, and they can make the bets in the arena.
Yes.
The owners are going to do things to draw them in. They're going to charge them more to be sitting in the arena, just like when you sit in a sports book in Vegas.
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you have all these monitors up. You watch now, the teams will start, and I believe Jacksonville talked about doing this last year, putting the NFL network up on the Jumbotron in the stadium during the game.
Yeah.
So that the players would have an opportunity and the fans to see what was going on around the NFL in real time. Charlton, that's coming into the stadiums with this betting.
Yeah.
They will have the NFL network up so that you can pay attention to the scores going on around the league in real time to place your bets.
I remember when I was working in production at CBS and Fox and ABC and NBC Sports back in the day, those good old boys in the trucks, we could see every game that was going on, a lot like what they do for baseball. On the baseball scoreboard, they'll show you the scores of every game, and football does it too, basketball does it too, but they'll usually put 3 games at a time. But now that sporting angle, I think it's actually like interactive TV. Everything is interactive. But we talked about society and the artificial intelligence and how technology is changing things. You can go with your phone now and go to a game and make a bet on your phone. You don't have to wait and go down to Vegas or someplace. And so I think that's changing the game of sport. I think I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. It just seems like the rich are getting richer, but I don't know if it's going to help the poor guy, because Las Vegas in the bet community, they don't get rich by losing money. So even though we want to have these riverboat casinos opening up all over the country so people can bet on sports, Las Vegas does not get the way that it is by losing money and having big payouts. That's why when my friend calls me, I just I listen to what he says, because he's right about 9 out of 10 times, and he told me what's going to happen last night because Vegas got paid. Houston didn't have a great game. Vegas had a great night. Big C, I want to ask you one more thing. Boston and Cleveland. LeBron James is the name for the Eastern Conference, just like Curry and Durant and Harden are the names for the Western Conference. What would the NBA Finals be like if, you know how things are orchestrated, if the Cavs are not in the finals or at least playing a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals? Your thoughts?
Jonathan, I don't know if this can get to a Game 7. You know, the Boston Celtics are not just a run-of-the-mill ball club. You got to understand, they were in this position last year.
Yeah.
They played in the Eastern Final, and they took the Cavaliers to the limit. The Cavaliers were actually tired when they showed up to play the Warriors in the final, because of the battle that they had against the Boston Celtics. So this is a team that's battle-tested. You got to realize they really only have one new player on this team. Well, actually two.
Yeah,
Brandon Tatum, the rookie, and Al Horford at center. Everybody else was in place. You know, people talked about them losing Kyrie. They talked about them losing Gordon Hayward. They were never a factor in this team last year.
No.
So these players that they have in place right now that are the nucleus, Charlton, they were there. So they are battle-tested in being in the Eastern Final. What they did to LeBron and the Cavaliers, Charlton, in the first 2 games at TD Garden was not a fluke. This is a well-balanced ball club. I know the coach, Brad Stevens, gets a lot of publicity about what he's doing, but the players are executing on the court, Charlton. You can coach it as well as anybody. You're going to tell me that D'Antonio and Kerr and Tyronn Lue are not doing a great job coaching? But when you have a team like Cleveland in the first game where you miss 14 threes, Charlton, that's not coaching. You know, that's players not producing. But if they had knocked down half of those threes, Charlton, oh, what a tremendous job by Tyronn Lue. That's what we would have heard. So, you know, you also got to look that Cleveland has been pushed to the limits. LeBron hasn't taken a game off all year. So this is the most he's been tested throughout his career, which may be combined haunting in 15 years that you've played every game in your 15th season.
Yeah.
So those legs might not have the spring that we've expected for them to have at this time of the year. We've seen him have some outstanding games. Even in the last one, 42, 10, and 12.
Yeah.
But think about it, if LeBron had to take 10 games off during the season. That might have been 52, 15, and 17.
Yeah.
So you got to understand, LeBron, being as great an athlete as he is, still gets tired like everybody else.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You definitely got to have, that's why you got to have a good cut man in your corner, so when you're getting tired, he can tell you, do the rope-a-dope, Big C, do the rope-a-dope. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bandini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to this hockey game tonight, Charlton, with the Lightnings and the Capitals. Every road game has been won, Charlton, by the visiting team.
Yeah.
You know, can the Lightning pull even tonight versus the Capitals? Because if they don't, Charlton, we've seen that the Capitals have won 2 already down in Tampa.
Well, I tell you what, it's always great in the land of Vibranium. And speaking of Vibranium, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.